I would just like to talk briefly about the trajectory of Israel, because I don't think of Israel as a normal state at all. Okay, every state, of course, nation state, has a narrative built into it. We're not accident. We have our own. We have our myths. We have the particular conditions of our formation, and some better and some worse, and some make peace. And of course, they've all changed a lot. It's hard to remember that once the Swedes were the horrible Vikings who plundered and raped Europe, and now look at them, they're just gloomy and depressed. They're also very nice. And someday I think we might say the same would happen to the Israelis, because they were the fourth option, first being piety, the second being modernity on the capitalist term, third being anti-capitalist modernity, and the fourth being Zionism, which was actually the weak sister of the four that had the least traction for a long time, until, of course, the crisis of the 20th century proceeded to the point where it became essential to be bankrolled and backed by the great imperial power that constitutes the United States. So I want to just talk also a little bit about what is striking in the history of Israel, and those of you who have the memory or have studied this will know that Israel entered the world stage as a nice guy state. Now, of course, that is because people didn't realize about the reality of the Nakba and the ethnic cleansing that the great historian Joel Kovel and others have uncovered. But I certainly know when I was born in 1936, in 1948 I was old enough, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is really great. And finally the Jews are going to have their homeland, and not only that, but they're socialists. Whoa, Jews are socialists. Isn't that terrific? Zionism is a socialist organization. It's run by labor, like History Group. All of that was part of the package. Okay. Now, I like to think of Israel as the Macbeth of the nations. Okay. Macbeth was a sort of a loyal, vassal to the region, and he killed somebody, and then lo and behold, he had to kill somebody else, and lo and behold, the range of killing had to spread. He begins by saying, if it were done when 'tis done, then were well, 'twere done quickly, if the assassination could trammel up the consequence and catch with its success. Wow, let's get it over with. That's not the way it works, of course, not the way it works when you're talking about something like a nation state. What you're doing is embarking on a project of enhanced and expanding degradation. And so it's really very curious and striking, bear this in mind, that the state of Israel, having entered the world stage, by the way, with the greatest degree of equality between upper and lower classes of all of the nations on the Western European model, in 1948-49, has now the greatest degree of inequality. Would you believe that? That's a very interesting prospect. And you can see that eventually the labor Histadrut coalition yielded to the Likud coalition in 1977, and lo and behold, one thing led to another, and guess what? Israel is now virtually a full-fledged fascist state. We have to bear this in mind. It is a trajectory that is inherent in the pathway of a country that is grounded in proclaiming the special right, proclaiming itself outside the laws of the nation, because its people, namely the Jews, have been so miserably treated and deserve exceptional license from the rest of the world so that they can carry out their God-given project of ethnic cleansing. Because ethnic cleansing arises from the need to build Israel as a place that is Arabrine, cleared of Arabs, cleared of anything that is non-Jewish. So it's a very peculiar kind of nationalism that Zionism was. Very, very different from ordinary nationalism, because it's not based upon an organic relationship to a territory, which gives a certain rationality to it. You work this land, you made something happen there, you built, you have, like the Irish could say about Ireland, or the Poles about Poland, and so on. No, because the Jews had been scattered, they had very complex relations wherever they were, and the only thing that held them together were these Old Testament texts of retribution and ethnic redemption. So it was that, yes, Israel developed its nationalism, but developed it only through the context of conquest and bloodshed, and indeed expropriation. No, not so gently, but with a full deck of rationalizations, lies, and myths. So this is the country that you're faced with at this time, I would submit two things, and I know I'm leaping over, great conceptual maps here, but it's okay, because we also think about this, and I don't get everything to your satisfaction. At least try to think of it this way. I think that this odd country has put itself in a position where it is actually approaching a kind of an agonal final stage. I don't know how long it's going to last, but I'm with the CIA report that says it doesn't see Israel lasting more than another 20 years. You know that report. Okay? It sees that it will be replaced by a single democratic secular state in that period of time. I see Israel actually doing that, but on the other hand, there's another option which is very, very much more maligned, because right now you have the IDF extensively being run at the lieutenant and sub-lieutenant levels by the remnant of that Jewish piety option, number one, that went over to Israel and thrived because it was the only thing that could legitimate what the state of Israel was doing by saying, oh, it's God's will, it overrides our higher, enlightenment morality, it's just the way Yahweh promised it to us. So tough about the Arabs, they don't count, they're not fully human beings, they're terrorists, they don't even exist, blah, blah, blah. And these people are actually infesting the IDF at the lieutenant, sub-lieutenant level, and it's one reason why Gaza was such a hideous and horrible and sadistic and genocidal operation. So reminiscent, by the way, of course, of the Warsaw Ghetto, which a lot of people concluded. And this is not an idle analogy. It is the actual unfolding of a certain kind of historic logic. And I think that, yes, Israel might collapse because increasing numbers of people are actually out migrating, despite the fact that they have made life subhuman for Arabs. There is, even at this point, as we speak, probably an absolute Arab majority demographically. They're really up against it because they're not just like a simple dictatorship. They have to legitimate themselves democracy, democratically, which means they need a majority of Jewish people. A lot of Jewish people are leaving. They're bringing in Russians, many of whom are not Jewish people. Many of them are actually anti-Semites and old-fashioned, pogromists. That's not the kind of people who probably raped my great-great-grandmother once. And I don't know. I have a heated imagination. Forgive me.